Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm joined by Todd Michael Hall. He'll talk all about his new solo CD. He'll also give us an update on what's going on with Riot 5, as well as what it was like to be on the hit TV show The Voice. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this episode, so let's jump in and let's get started. Awesome. So, first, Todd, I just want to thank you for doing the show and congratulate you on the release of your new album, Sonic Healing. Came out a couple of days ago. Do you feel a sense of relief? Were you nervous leading up to it? Excited? All of the above? How are you feeling?
I think excited, in the sense that I'm like really, I just was really happy. I was with the product and just so excited about what I'd done, with Kurdt. I just felt like we worked really well together. And so to me, there was just excitement, like, man, I just really want people to hear this and see what they think. And I think that was my biggest thing. Obviously, you worry a little bit like, oh, maybe people won't like it or nobody will listen or whatever, But I think I think, especially someone who's been doing it for a while, like if you're really worried about that, you probably just wouldn't be doing this because, there's always going to be somebody. And I'm sensitive, but I have reasonably thick skin. I can read a bad review and be like, all right, Obviously, this guy doesn't like. Sometimes I wonder because there's some people that just seem like they post hateful things, and I'm thinking like, why do you got to be so mean? Like, I don't get it. I was raised like with that expression: if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I kind of don't totally get the culture of nowadays where people just feel so in the mood to say hateful, mean things to people.
Well, that's really my bag. Behind the keyboard and then not talking face to face.
Yeah.
So, I think that's some of that. But over the course of the last year, I've interviewed a bunch of different musicians. Some of them have told me during the last year of the pandemic, they didn't feel like recording new music. They weren't finding influences to record new music. And other people said, no, this has been the best time. I'm home. I'm writing. How is it for you writing material and coming up with an album during the pandemic?
I think a lot of it, like for me, I have a lot of distractions in my life. I run a manufacturing company for a living. I have a wife and 3 kids and this and that, and whatever. So I think for me, what I find is that it was a bit of a boon for me in a way. Because like back in March and April last year, the business was shut down for a little while. So I really wasn't working as much over the course. And so all of these songs were written during that period. And I've never, we had this, first of all, Kurdt was amazing. The guy wrote like 18 songs over the course of 21 days. Like once he said, all right, I'm going to start, then it was just like a flood. And he got me motivated. And so like I just loaded a song to Dropbox. Oh yeah, I just loaded one. And like we kept passing it back. Like he would write the music, I'd write the lyrics and vocal melodies, just kept passing back and forth. And like we're talking within 4 weeks, I had written lyrics and vocal melodies to 16 of the 18 songs he gave me. And I've never had a period that productive. And it was what I would come down to. It's a notion of stillness or something. You have to create space in your life to be creative. If you don't have any space, you're constantly getting distracted or whatever have you, it's going to be tough. And I think it helps to have the right frame of mind. I had times during the year, later in the year, after it dragged on for a while in the business. And because at that early stage when I wrote this, it was kind of, you still had that, oh yeah, we're going to close for a few
right.
Weeks, you're going to be gone and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And so, I don't think I could have wrote this album long about September, October when I was really stressing out more. So I can understand that. And even with my own, my other band, Riot 5, I know Donnie and Mike were both kind of like, oh man, and we have a bunch of songs written, but we kind of put the pause on recording because they were like, oh, we don't want to release an album when we can't even go out and tour to support it and stuff. Sure. So I definitely can see both perspectives. I can see where if you've got free time, it might really be getting the creative juices going. But I could also see just being depressed and not wanting to do anything. So
So
I think
true.
I experienced a little bit of both, I think,
As did I think a lot of people in the world over the last year. Now, to me, I find fascinating. You mentioned Kurdt, right? So Kurt's from Metal Church, you're
Yeah.
from Riot 5. Both of those are known as hard rock, metal type bands. Yet this album is not necessarily in that vein, right? So talk about the influences and the style of music on this album.
Yeah, it was specific. Like when I think of heavy metal, I think of Riot and I think of like double bass,
Sure. Exactly. Mhm.
and like for me, I actually, I did like 7 albums. So I did 3 albums with Burning Star, I did 2 albums with Reverence, and 2 albums with Riot. So I mean, I actually had 7 heavy metal albums over the course of roughly about 10 years, I think, because you have 2009 to 2018, I believe. And so, yeah, and even some guest appearances on some more of that kind.
Sure.
So I was definitely in the mood for something else. And I'd been having the hankering for a few years. Like back in 2017, 18, I actually had talked to Joe from Rat Pack about maybe doing a solo album. But I told him I wanted to do some old school rock. And he's like, well, but you're known for metal. So he was wanting to do metal.
Mhm.
And so we didn't really do anything. And then after I went on The Voice and I sang Jukebox Hero and rocked it out and stuff, that's when I called him back. I'm like, dude, seriously, I want to do something old school rock. Can you hook me up with somebody to help me, maybe turn some of my song ideas and whatnot have you? And that really was the inspiration. And so he's like, well, let me look. And he's like, I got this guy, Kurdt, he's really into it. And so Kurdt and I, we talked on Zoom, and we had a nice Zoom session just like this. And
Sure.
I'd met him a few years back, but we didn't stay in touch. And when I talked to him, I was like, man, this is what I would like to do. And he's like, oh man, I'm so down with that. He's like, the thing is when you are in and I don't mean this to sound negative, but when you're in Riot or you're in Metal Church, it's like a certain box that you're in, and you really, musicians and writers, we all have inspirations. I listen to R&B, or I'll listen to whatever. I mean, the Counting Crows or whatever,
That's awesome.
And you have lots of motivations, but in order to be a successful band, you kind of got to stay a little more focused. Your Metal Church fans don't want you to release an album that sounds like singer-songwriter stuff. They
Right.
just don't want that. So I think for him, he kind of relished in that notion of, hey, I can kind of do it. And so that's what I've done with my solo stuff. I just been more like, I'm just going to put something out that pleases me and see what happens, and hopefully it makes other people happy too. And when he and I were talking about, we were just talking about the glory days. He's got a few years on me, but not much. We're right in that same vein. And I remember him specifically telling me, I remember this phrase. He's like, when I pick up my guitar and I just start jamming, these are the kind of riffs that come out of me,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling him, like, look, I just want melodic hooks. I want guitar lines that you want to hum and you can remember, and you want to play air guitar too.
Yep.
And that's really was the inspiration. So we were looking at like, all right, let's 70s, like early 80s, whatever kind of thing. And I think we hit the nail on the head pretty good. I think there's probably quite a few 80s. There might even be some metal influences in there, but for the most part, I wanted a little more space in the drums, a little more. I was telling other people, we joke about it in Riot, because Riot has been around so long that you have the initial Riot that is a little more hard rock, and then you got the later Riot that's more power metal. And so we call the earlier stuff left to right, and we call the power metal stuff up and down.
That's great.
And I wanted to write stuff that was a little more left to right. So
That makes sense.
I think we hit the nail on the head pretty good with that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love the title of the album, right? Sonic Healing, right? So to me, I heard that title and I instantly thought of the last year and what we've all been through, and how there's been a lack, for all intents and purposes, lack of new music, pretty much no concerts. And
Yeah.
this is like, the healing is starting, Sonic Healing. That's the way I took that title to me. But what did you mean, as the artist?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I meant, really. When I was writing that song, and like the album name came after the song, and so, and all of these songs, like, they were written for this album, brand new. He would give me music, I would listen to it, I'd walk around, listen to it, and they would start singing to me, and that's one where, if you listen to Sonic Healing, the song, it's got a little more of the subdued kind of thing going.
Yep.
And it was reminding me of like how in life you kind of have, musically, it was reminding me of like how you kind of have like trials and tribulations and maybe things, and then all of a sudden for the chorus, all of a sudden the music just comes in and it just gets all energetic. And it was making me think about how, energy music just can really give you a lot of energy and just really pick you up. And so that's what I ended up writing the song about. And then I don't know, the lyric sonic healing, that word just came out in the lyric. And then later on, I was, well, what's the name of this song? The title or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I guess sonic healing sounds good. And then later on, we were like, wow, this whole album, because I was specifically wanting to have a positive, just energetic kind of vibe to the album. So we ended up coming out and said, wow, like sonic healing just seems like it makes sense for the title of this whole album. So
yeah, no, it resonated with me instantly. And I think the new single as well, Let Loose Tonight, right? That's also a very positive, uplifting message. Music's my true release is some of the lyrics, right? So talk about the new single now.
That was one too. Like I remember the first time, because like I said, I would get the music and I would walk around. I like to get my 10,000 steps in a day. So I do a lot of walking and I was just walking around listening to it, and there was something about the dun, 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 dun. It just screamed like old time classic rock, and it just made me think of going to see a live band and that sort of thing. And in a way, I'm kind of that guy. Like in a way, it's like I almost stole like Weekend Warrior from Ted Nugent, because like he had that concept. Obviously, the song doesn't sound anything like that, but conceptually, it's kind of similar in that a lot of us. I mean, I'm sure you're like that too. We all have to work during the week. I mean, like I have a job. I got to do it. You work all week long, and then for a lot of us, music is that release. And to me, when I think of this too, I also think of that notion of live music, because even if you're just going to a club or something, there's just something about seeing a band play and the energy that it gives you. And so to me, that's what Let Loose Tonight is about. And I think, in that framework, it was kind of like, and it doesn't have to be, but obviously with the video, we kind of framed it like where the guy who's like working all week ends up being the drummer in the band kind of thing. So
no, I love the album. One of the songs that was really a standout for me was Running After You. I thought that was incredible, melodic, great harmony, a little bit in the choruses, just had like a little bit of an 80s feel, but certainly felt very, very current. That's been for me one of the go-to tracks on the album. So I love that one. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I really love that song too. That was actually the first song that I wrote with Kurdt.
Really?
He gave me a batch of 5 songs, and I gave him all a quick listen. And that was the one that, like, I heard it and I'm like, ooh, I think I could tackle that. Like, it's interesting for me when I write, in a lot of I do write my own music and stuff, but a lot of times in bands, especially the harder stuff, I'm working with another guitar player, because you get these brilliant guitar players. It doesn't make sense for me. I'm like an infant when it comes to playing guitar player, these guys. And so I listen to these songs, and it sounds weird, but like they'll just sing to me. It sounds funny, but like I can just hear melodies popping off, and all of a sudden lyrics will start jumping. And that was one of those ones where it just really started singing to me. And it was the first one I wrote with Kurdt. And to me, I'm at an age in my life where I hate to sound like the old fogey and like, oh, things were so better back then, because frankly, life is great for me now. But at the same time, there's just these little, I think the true value of relationships and love and all that stuff is shared experience. And that's really what the song is kind of about. It's like, it's cool. I know people get divorced and all this stuff happen, but to me, there's something really beautiful about a long-term relationship. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be with someone of the opposite sex. I think that was something that I kind of realized more as I listened to songs. It really started reminding me a lot of my older brother. So that's why I actually posted a new video, just a personal one that I made for the song, and I dedicated it to him. And but it's like, there's something about just knowing that this person in your life has been there for a long time, and you have all this shared experience, and that no matter what happens, you're going to be there for each other. So that's really what the song's about.
That's awesome. Now, when I'm listening to the song, and you're probably going to say I'm crazy, and my apologies if I am, right? But I hear certain like inflections in your voice that made me think of Geddy Lee. Not that your voice sounds like him, but there's certain inflections there. So who are your vocal influences? And am I crazy to think that?
No, the funny part is, I think, and I don't know why, if I was, a little more astute musically, the pre-chorus where it's riding on an endless way.
Exactly.
That phrase right there, if that doesn't scream Rush, like, yes. I don't know. And I'm not saying the whole song does, but there's something about that change the music and the phrase and somehow the entrance into it, and I'm not even sure what song we're ripping off, but apparently because it sounds exactly like Rush to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny is I love Rush and they're a great band, but like I didn't necessarily listen to, like I didn't buy their albums a lot growing up because like they were on the radio and that's where I heard them. And so I don't know that I would necessarily say Geddy Lee is a huge influence to me, but I think when you listen to our tone and the tenor of our voice and stuff, there is a lot of similarities. I think. I don't know if our vocal pocket is in exactly the same place. He sings really high, like, you know, you fly by night, yeah, like, you know, and all that stuff. So I don't know for sure if our vocal pocket's in the same spot, but maybe. So yeah, I can hear that. I would say influences, if you look as a child, I mean, obviously I liked Barry Manilow and like Lionel Richie when I was like really, really little, but when you start looking at it later on, you had like Boston, REO Speedwagon, Styx, obviously Led Zeppelin was there because they're all over the radio. You know, you had Queen, you know, Another One Bites the Dust, you know, all that. I mean, you had all of that stuff blended in there. And then as you got into the 80s, you know, because it was like the golden time of the virtuoso singers and players and whatnot have you. So, I mean, you know, you look at it, I hope I mentioned Boston, Brad Delp and all that. I mean, these singers were just flipping amazing, and being able to have these huge high ranges and effortlessly sing from one end to the other. That was just like, it was like I don't want to say it was a given, but like, that's what you had to have. Right. And that's what I was kind of raised on. And then as you got into the 80s, it transitioned into the heavy metal. But what's funny is as it transitioned to heavy metal, it seemed like that singer thing really stayed there. I mean, some singers aside, I mean, obviously you've got perfect examples always of things, people not doing that, but still, you know, you look at Jeff Tate from Queensryche, and I always loved Eric Adams from Manowar, and Tony Harnell from TNT, and Tony Mills from Shy, and Michael Sweet from Stryper, and you name it. If they sang high in whatever, I liked it. I have a really clean voice. So the people that resonated with me tended to be the ones that, you know, I could emulate a little bit and I could sing more. Although I really have a fascination for like someone like, say, Perry Moore McCartney from the band Warrior, because he could, you know, get this, I can't even reproduce it. He could get this kind of, when he wanted it, like he could sing really clean, but then when he and that's where Eric Adams from Manowar has always been a fascination for me. And I've met him in person a few times because I was on their record label, so I can name drop now, but his voice to me, like he could sing Nelson Dorma like it was an opera. And then all of a sudden, and I even asked him, I met him in person. I'm like, dude, man, that first album of yours, 81, I'm like, oh my God, like what motivated you to sing? And I remember him telling me, he goes, I was thinking like, you know, what would an animal sound like, you know, if it were like growling or whatever have you. And he goes, that's what it came to me. And I'll tell you, even though I think that, I can't duplicate it, man. That guy is, I mean, he's incredible. You listen to him sing stuff, but then when he wants to sound angry, like I don't have that. I don't have that at all.
Well, I'm going to say this. Don't sell yourself short, because I remember when you were on The Voice last year and I was doing some research about you. I saw that, I think it was 2019, Burn Magazine in Japan, you hit the top 10 vocalists on their year-end thing, ahead of artists such as Bruce Dickinson, Rob Halford, Paul Stanley. You were ahead of those classic singers. So that must have felt good as a singer.
Yeah, how stupid is that? You know, what's interesting about that poll is really, it's a little bit different, because what they're saying is like, who did we like this year? Like who came to visit us, or who released an album, or who played some shows and we really liked them. And I love that, because a lot of that, you know, I think because we had released an album in 2018, but I got on the poll because we played there. Like we had 2 trips in 19. We did March, and we also did, and man, when we go, for some reason, Riot 5 just has a lot of fans. I mean, in you know, Riot has a lot of fans in Japan. So we go there, and I know it doesn't sound like necessarily much to some people that are huge, but you know, we'll put 1,000 people into the Club Cheetah, and that's a good draw. You know, I wish we could draw 1,000 people everywhere, you know, and, you know, cause it's all by yourself. There's no one else on the bill. And so when we go, I mean, we'll play like 26, 27 songs. We'll play for like 2.5 hours. And I just have these, you know, the stage is beautiful. I just have these amazing nights, and the Riot catalog. I mean, I'm so blessed because it fits the pocket of my voice really well. I hope I don't sound like I'm bragging, but I mean, I just,
you should. I feel like I'm the one that brought up you were in the top 10, not you.
Well, so I just feel like I've really, and so I think that's what they're responding to is me just going there and just, and the thing is, there's something about the Japanese artists, the Japanese fans, especially the ones that love the Burn magazine, they really love a high, clean singer. Like, I mean, they love it all. Don't get me wrong, but so for some reason I resonate with them. So yeah, it was really fascinating. I'd been on that poll a few times, but that was the first time I was in the top 10.
Right.
And that's where you got a little bit bigger text by your name. So I felt pretty good about that. I mean, the funny thing is, you know, my family, whatever.
Oh man, really?
Whatever.
Look, I thought that was cool. So, you know, looking at that then and looking at your experience playing in hard rock metal bands, you go and audition for The Voice. How does that, what's the thought process for you? Are you worried, oh, I might alienate my fans? Because look, a bunch of people love those shows and some people also say, no, those shows aren't for me. Were you worried going on to that you'd alienate some fans, or did you not really concern yourself with that?
You know, I think later on when I was getting on the show and I saw some people post comments like, oh, why would he do that? And it made me think about it. But just going into it, I didn't think about it. And I think the thing is, I'm a little WYSIWYG. You know, what you see is what you get. You know, I'm a sensitive guy. I'm the kind of guy that after the show, I love to talk to people and meet people. I mean, it's hard to talk sometimes when the music's loud, so you'll find I'm quiet. But I'm the guy who's out there giving hugs to, you know, big sweaty dudes. You know what I mean? Just because if they want a hug, you know, and because some people, when you walk up to them after the show, they're just like, dude, like, and like, you know, I don't. If somebody does that to you and you don't give them a hug, like, how can you not? You know. Right. So I feel like I'm that kind of guy who's pretty sensitive and in touch with his feelings and all that, and so. I mean, I think that people know that about me. And so I don't think they would I think if there's someone who likes me and saw me on The Voice, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's just Todd. You know what I mean? And,
that's cool.
So I maybe if there's a casual person that's not really a big Riot fan or certainly not a big fan of mine, then maybe they might be turned off. And if they are, I mean, hey, you know, I don't care what anyone says. Going on a show where you get to perform for millions, we're talking millions of people. I don't know. I was told, I don't know. I didn't check Nielsen ratings, but I was told like anywhere from 10 to 15 million people will watch the show. And my YouTube video has 4.5 million views or whatever. I mean, and I love to perform and I'm getting to sing Jukebox Hero, which is an incredible song from an incredible band. I get to hit these high head voice notes and do it right basically in the face of 4 Grammy award-winning people, you know, 2 of which who turned for me, 1 of which turned early and I didn't even think he would, and who's rocking up.
John Lennon, legends.
Yeah. I'm like, where's the negative in this? You know,
right? I agree.
That was kind of my feeling. You know,
I agree. You know, John is known for working with Jay-Z and I forget a couple of other artists, Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
And he, like you said, he was the first one to turn. Blake turned for you, but I remember it was Kelly Clarkson, who I love, by the way. I think she's got an incredible voice. So nothing I'm about to say is a criticism of her. I've seen her in concert, amazing singer, best singer to me, female in the last 20 years. But she made a comment like, wow, I didn't think rock music existed anymore, right? And I was like, wow, do you think that mindset, and I've heard Gene Simmons say a lot of times that rock is dead. Do you think that mindset of, you know, rock music doesn't exist anymore hurt you from progressing longer in the show? Because the people who loved you, right? But do you think that maybe that rock audience just isn't there like it used to be?
Well, I think that part of the, you know, getting on that show, you know, on one hand, you have to have a great voice, but there's a ton of people with great voices, right? So the other thing is you got to check certain boxes. And I do think that part of me getting on the show was I checked some boxes for them. One, I was this old guy, so they could like, you know, I was turning 50, so they could kind of paint me as this guy still trying to make it. And I think the other thing that worked is I was in The Rock. I mean, they want to hit all the different stuff because they want to bring all those. So the show itself is very pop focused and even more like mellow music focused. So I never thought that I would win it, really. I mean, you have a fantasy like, oh, what if I could win it? But I mean, I never thought I would win it. And so for me, it was more like, God, I wonder if I could get on. And for me, this is going to sound stupid, but I almost felt like just getting on and doing Jukebox Hero and rock it out, hitting those high notes, and I felt like I nailed the performance. I'm completely happy with my performance. I felt like I could just drop the mic and leave at that point. Be like, okay, I did what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Although I was really happy with the second performance. It wasn't my song choice. I don't know where they got the song from. Turned out Tina Turner fit my vocal range really well. And I thought Joey and I worked real hard and rocked it out, put some great harmonies. And I had absolute fun. Like right before I went on stage, I just was in this Zen moment where I was like, soak it in, because when are you ever going to get a chance to do this again? So, and I was really, really in the moment for that performance. So probably it was my most enjoyable performance on the show. But I think where it started to go weird, a little wonky for me is basically like, it is more pop based, and it was going to be tough to put me there. Although ironically, if I could have just made it to the live rounds, because if I'd have got through the knockout, the next song I was going to sing was Boston, More Than a Feeling.
Oh, wow.
So I was getting back to rock, and like they had given me songs like, what songs you want to do for lives? And so my instant save song was Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer.
That's a tough one to sing.
Yeah. And my song for like do a dedication song was Iron Maiden, Wasted Years. I mean, stuff like that. Wow. I mean, so I had some really cool stuff potentially lining up, but it just was hard for me to get through that. And in their defense, there was just some really great kids. And like the Michael, I'm forgetting his last name, he'll kick me, but Michael, who won the knockout round, he just absolutely knocked it out with his performance. Mm-hmm. He had a beautiful, beautiful song. And I wasn't as happy with my performance on that. So I get it. It made sense to me. In looking back, if I'd have done Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, a really known song, and had some energy, maybe I'd have had a chance. But frankly, I don't think I'd have gone any further anyway, because, the top two were from my team. Right. The guy who won it was from my team, Todd Tillman. Tanisha Harris was from my team. She came in second place. And they were so good that I just don't think there was room for me anyway. So it's cool. I don't have any hard feelings about it. I mean, it was an incredible experience.
Well, that's awesome to hear you say. So when we were talking about performing live, any plans to tour or play any live shows, pandemic permitting, with the new album or anything with Riot that you have on the horizon?
Yeah, I would love to with the new album. I know Kurdt and I are both really excited about it. And the way we recorded it and did it, it sounds pretty much just like a rock band. So I think that it would translate really well live. And I love the positive energy and stuff. So I'd love to do it. I think that one, obviously COVID aside, I think it comes down to just like demand. Is there kind of enough demand for Todd Michael Hall? I mean, my name's not very big out there, so I don't know how much demand there is to see. I'd probably have to hook up with somebody else, maybe do an opener, but I'd love to play these songs live and experience the people's reaction in person. But definitely, I'm going to be recording vocals for a new Riot album, and we have a new Riot 5 album coming out. We have some shows. We had some shows booked last summer. They got moved to this summer, and now I believe they're moved to next summer. So some anchor shows over in Europe. What I was kind of hoping with my solo stuff is it might open more doors in the USA for me, to try to, so I love playing Europe. I love Japan and all that, but I mean, it'd be nice to play some shows in the US too. And I thought maybe that'd be a little easier with this style of music. I don't know, so we'll see what comes. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard. That's why, I really appreciate you, Mike, doing this, because it's so hard to get the word out and just have people pay attention. I mean, there's so many distractions in life from news and everything that to have people see it, and there's a headline with my name on it, they don't know who I am, so they don't even bother looking or reading or paying attention. So I mean, God bless everyone that just gives me a shot and lets me and tries the music and see if it's your cup of tea. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And where can people find the album? Right, I think on your website you have it available on vinyl, on cassette. So where can people find it?
Yeah, I mean, it's available everywhere digitally now. Obviously, if you go to ratpackrecords.com, with pack is spelled PAK, you can find special bundles where there's autograph bundles and bundles with cassettes and CDs and vinyl and all that. But certainly you can, I believe the CD and vinyl is on Amazon. So it's going to be on all your different type of outlets too. So it should be pretty easy to find.
Awesome. And last question. So when you listen to it, do you listen to the vinyl, the cassette, or the CD?
Yeah, be honest with you, I listen to it mostly on my phone because I've had the MP3 files on my phone, the final mix, for quite a while. But I did actually, when I got the vinyl, because I got the vinyl before everyone else, and when I got it in the mail, I did specifically put it down in my living room on a Saturday morning, and I listened to it from front to back on vinyl and kind of cranked it a little bit, and annoyed my family, and so that it's definitely a fun way to listen to it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Todd, I wish you nothing but best of luck with the album. Anybody who's watching this, I highly recommend it. It's great, throwback sound from the 70s and 80s. You love that style of music, you're going to love this album. Best of luck. I hope you do well with it, Todd.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All righty. There you have it. I'd like to thank Todd for taking some time out and talking with me all about his new CD, Sonic Healing. I highly recommend you guys check it out. I think you guys will really enjoy it. Thanks a lot, Todd. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You should also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.